Tell people about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nicole Steiner, and I am one of Troy's personal statement customers. I definitely recommend working with him. I started studying for the LSAT about 2 years ago, and unfortunately, due to COVID, I had to wait a year to go to law school. I ran into the predicament of, do you need to write a new personal statement and a new diversity statement? And I decided to write a new one, and it was really hard to come up with a second topic after you put so much energy into the first one. My first personal statement, some of the advice that I received was I need to write a statement that shows that I can kick butt and I can do really well in law school. So my first personal statement was on how I started my business. I have a small consulting agency. I originally started Really Grit Consulting more as a freelance company to pay off my loans from undergrad. And I was working for an international company as a brand manager. So I was traveling all over the world and it was something that I could do remotely. But I ended up getting enough customers where I was able to quit my job to study full time for the LSAT. And I actually took up a job serving and pet sitting because I made really good money serving and it was minimal hours. You could leave it at work and you could pet sitting. I got paid to do my marketing work and I got paid to study. And so while I have a couple employees that are running my marketing side, I have been focusing more on tutoring the LSAT and teaching additional courses. So I teach social media workshops, I teach leadership workshops. During COVID, whenever the kids were on quarantine, I taught Harry Potter reading courses. I've taught women leadership classes like Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. I taught a book club on that and applying those leadership strategies to the workforce. Coolest Woman in History, a course for third to fifth grade. It was majority girls in the class. There's probably 200 or 300 girls that would join and we would talk about the coolest woman in history. So everyone from Malala Yousafzai to Harriet Tubman, Eleanor Roosevelt, Michelle Obama, Ellen. Yeah, we covered all sorts.
Did you feel that that first personal statement wasn't good enough, or you just didn't want to reuse it, or why did you decide to do another personal statement?
I spent a lot of time on my first personal statement, so I don't think I could ever say that I didn't like it because I put too much work into it to ever say that. Um, no, I did not get into my dream school last year. I got waitlisted, and I don't know if I ever would have gotten off the waitlisted because of COVID. I withdrew my application before I found out, but I felt like for me to have a chance of getting in there, I had to provide something fresh. But I also think that I was more ready to share my complete journey with the personal statement that we worked on together. I might not get in everywhere, or it might not be what everybody's looking for, but for the right school, it will be the right thing because it's completely who I am. One of my colleagues, someone that I had worked with at a restaurant, I had her read my first personal statement and she was like, this is good, but this is nothing of who you are as a person, Nicole. She's like, I read this and I see someone that's really successful in business, but there's so much more to you that you need to share. And that was really empowering to me that she felt like I had more to offer than what that first statement said. I thought about just editing the first one a little bit. I get told by some people that people don't care about how you grew up, or people don't care about what you did in elementary school. They don't care about what you did in high school. They want to hear about what you're doing now. And I really struggled with walking that balance between sharing my story and also coming across as like an accomplished person that will succeed in law school.
Would you say it's true that in your first personal statement to address that issue, you took the approach of not talking about any challenges you faced and just talking about successes with business?
Yes, the truth of the matter is I am successful because of all these challenges. I didn't just get to start this company or learn these things just because. I think that this personal statement shows the actual journey of how I've learned to overcome things and learn to become a good student.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of them in a while, but it'd be interesting to look at both of them again side by side and see if this one with a more complete story does feel more authentic, more real, more understandable.
I think the one that we worked on is more enjoyable to read for sure. Like you read it and you actually feel something. And I think one of the things that I appreciated about working with you was you spent the time to interview me and you asked a lot of questions. It was helpful because I think all those thoughts like I just had to get out, you helped me organize it. One thing I really enjoyed is I'm from a very rural community. I'm from a very blue collar community without a lot of opportunity, especially for women. And I really appreciated that you allowed me to include my agricultural background because so much of who I am is because I grew up on a dairy farm. I grew up working, 365 days a year. I grew up, and that is so much of who I am that it was really hard to actually not include that in my first statement. And we started off my personal statement by when I was 3 years old. I had my first job trying to keep my dad awake while he was driving the tractor and feeding calves before and after school. And while other people told me that that wasn't relevant for my personal statement, My work ethic comes from the fact that I've worked almost every day of my life since I was 5 years old. And that's not like dairy farms are easy work, right? You work holidays, you work mornings, you work nights, you do a lot of things without getting a lot of credit or a lot of feedback. Like I remember, like I hate buckets that are full of ice, like carrying water to the calves when it's cold. Like that is my motivation to get through law school. So I never have to have like my hands frozen again. If you've ever met a farmer, which unfortunately like a lot of people don't know farmers only farm because it's all they care about doing. They don't do it for the money, and it's what they find their identity in. So growing up, it's just who I was. All of my family, like we worked on the farm together, we worked all the time. We were all active in FFA, Future Farmers of America. My brothers and both of my parents, all of us studied agriculture at The Ohio State University. So it's something that was so ingrained in me. And then my first job was working for an international agricultural company. And so it was something that I have done for the last 25 years of my life. And even though now I have this company that's not necessarily directly related to agriculture, it felt really awkward to not include it because every decision I've ever made has been based upon it. My personality is much more the second one, like the one that we worked on together. Like I feel like it's actually, like, I feel like you read that personal statement and you actually know who I am. The first one I come across as, yeah, I'm just someone that works a lot and I've done a lot of really good things.
Can you tell us more about the interview that we did together to get into all the details?
Yeah. Okay, so I remember us talking and I think that we were like an hour and a half into the interview and we hadn't even got past high school. It was really fun for me to be able to share. And it really made me reminisce. And I remember like I have not thought about this in a long time, but you asked me, I forget what, and I was like, well, I had encephalitis, which is an infection of the brain. So the extreme swelling in the brain. I was in the hospital and I ended up missing nearly half of my 7th grade year. And I had to relearn how to do a lot of things afterwards. Like before that experience, school was really easy for me. And afterwards, everything became a struggle. Paying attention, being able to hear, being able to read, being able to focus in class, everything was extremely challenging. And everything took me 2 or 3 times as long as it had beforehand. And I don't think I even realized how much it impacted me because I was so young. And so for a majority of my life, I've had to overcome a lot of the challenges that have come with it. In high school, I struggled with seizures because of it, and I would get severe migraines. And that all came out in our interview, and I like hadn't even thought about including that in my personal statement, even though that was a huge thing. I was really scared to, I think I even texted you after the interview, and I was like, are you sure I should include encephalitis? I was so afraid that, and this has been an insecurity my whole life, is I don't want to come across that I'm dumb because I do have, I'm going to tear up while saying this. It is definitely a struggle and I've worked so hard to hide it and overcome it that why would I just put it out there for them to know this deep insecurity that I have when I've worked so hard to cover it up. And finally I'm like, no, look at my LSAT score. Look at what I've done. Like, I don't have a brain. Like, I'm smart. I promise I can do law school. And then it was scary, to be honest.
Did it ever become less scary?
If I get in anywhere, we'll see.
You've gotten into some places already, right?
Yes.
How many schools have you gotten into this time around?
So I've applied to pretty much the top 20, including some schools in Ohio. I'm very serious about making a financially smart decision. And I've gotten into probably 5 schools.
How many are you waiting on still? 15 or?
Yeah, I'm still waiting on all the T14s.
You haven't gotten rejected anywhere yet?
I have not gotten rejected anywhere. Is that a good sign? Or are they just sitting on that rejection? Like, oh, it's Thanksgiving morning. Let's send Nicole her rejection.
I don't know, but 5 for 5 sounds good.
One school that I'm very serious about is Cornell because they have a strong agriculture program and they have actually a program there where they help with immigration on dairy farms, which is like right up my alley. And I'm like, oh, I've been actually following this professor and some of her work.
You did a draft. After we had the interview, I sort of talked to you about what I think you should include. How did that draft go and what guidance?
I think it was so helpful because instead of viewing the whole project as something that was like, oh, just go write this whole thing, it was very much step by step, which was helpful.
And then we did a diversity statement too.
Yeah, we did a diversity statement, which that was really helpful. Because I felt like I had a lot of things that I wanted to talk about and I wanted my application this year to be more cohesive. This year, I feel like both of them are intertwined. I was sexually assaulted when I was in college. I was a freshman. I had about 5 weeks left of my semester. I didn't get out of bed for those 5 weeks. I don't think I took all my finals. I remember I had an A in my calculus class, and because I didn't take something, I ended up getting like a C minus. I got a D in chemistry. I withdrew from a class, and I ended up with a 1.89 GPA. Coming from a small town, it's something that definitely isn't talked about, and there's not a lot of resources available. So when it happened, I had no idea what to do, and the amount of shame that I felt, especially after experiencing encephalitis when I was younger and like feeling I already came over a big hurdle. Like I'm on my comeback. So when that happened, it definitely made me doubt my ability to even go to law school. I went into Ohio State pre-law. Unfortunately, 1 in 4 women will experience some type of sexual harassment or assault in their lifetime. And that breaks my heart because like I struggled with sleeping, I struggled with insomnia, I struggled with anxiety, I struggled with depression. When you want something so badly, like going to law school, and something out of your control takes away that opportunity, it's really hard to be able to overcome it. And I definitely wanted to quit because at that point it felt like it was game over. Like, why are you going to keep playing if you can't get the end goal? And it was really exhausting to go to school every day knowing that I'm just trying to get a 3.0, or I'm just trying to get off academic probation. Like, it was no longer about, oh, I want a 4.0, or I was no longer in the fight for, any type of um awards or accreditations, or I had to work my butt off just to, get a 3.0.
Mm-hmm. You ended up with what, 3.2?
A 3.2.
Better than 3.0. All right.
I think it's like 3.197. I remember you saying that you thought I should include it. It didn't have to be a big part of my statement, but it obviously was real, and it was something that happened, and it's something that I've overcome. But you messaged me and you just said, like, what are you going to do if a school doesn't believe this? Or do you have any documentation of this if a school would ask? And I just think that that was a really hard thing for you to ask. And I know it wasn't because you didn't believe me. I just knew that you genuinely wanted what was best for me. And you knew that there was going to be admission committees reading this. And I couldn't have that risk of it coming across like, oh, I just messed up my first semester and I made this story up. Mm-hmm. Which maybe you didn't know that meant something, but like it did. Like, I did think about it and I was scared, but it came down to the point of if I'm going to get into some of these schools, like I have to put all my cards on the table. My diversity statement dives into growing up in a community that doesn't offer a lot of opportunities for women, and how I've helped women, and why I want to go to law school. And that pairs well with my personal statement. It was really cool how we tied the theme together of pretty much everything that I experienced in my personal statement. My diversity statement like reflects it, but talking about the things that women have to overcome in these situations.
Anything else that you want to talk about personal statement, diversity statement, anything else?
I recommend people work with you. I don't know if this is at all what you wanted. Sorry.
No, I didn't have any expectations, so.
I don't do well when there's no expectations.
You did well today.
I did well. Okay, I'll give myself my sticker.
Oh, I don't know if this is going to make the cut or whatever, but tell people about South Africa.
You wanted me to include that. I didn't know how to include it at any point.
I don't think we did ever end up including it.
No, we didn't, because it didn't fit anywhere. But I remember you're like, you should talk about all the countries you've been to. So I am a huge Nelson Mandela fan, and I've read all of his autobiographies. My dog is actually named Mandela after Nelson Mandela. I call her Della, follow her, Della the Doodle. And so I planned a trip to South Africa, where I actually planned my own history tour of South Africa. And I actually got to see the jail that he was kept in for 17 years. And I remember having this like moment. He had all of this crap in his life just thrown at him that he couldn't control. And on his first day of being released, he preached forgiveness. And it was all about, instead of like getting even, it was all about like, how can we make this better for the country of South Africa? Or like, I went through this for a purpose. And the fact that like he was able to overcome some of the things in his life and become president of South Africa, like gives me like this little bit of hope that I can overcome some of these things that people don't know about me and get into an incredible law school. So yeah, big fan of South Africa.